Good morning, my little scientists. So it came to my attention that we have now studied the saguaro cactus in the desert, and we have studied the kapok tree in the rainforest. And this time of year in the classroom, we would be doing a lot of projects to get ready for open house. And one of the projects that we would have been working on throughout all of this is our basic plant diagram. All plants, just like all animals, they have those superpowers from Mother Nature. We call those superpowers adaptations. Those are things that plants have to help them survive in their habitat. So we know the adaptations that the saguaro cactus has to keep it alive in the desert where there's very little rain. We also know the adaptations that the rainforest plants have in order to keep them alive with so much rain. So what we were going to do today is do a basic diagram of a plant. So you are more than welcome to do this along with me. If you have colors, that is the best way to do it. So markers, Sharpies, crayons. If we were in the classroom, we were actually, and I'm sorry, but my puppy got a hold of this the other day and ate the corner. What we would have done is painted some paper, and then we would have cut out all these pieces out of different colors. So if you want to do that, then you can just keep pausing the video and you can design this however you want. You can watch it through and then pull your supplies together. But this is what ours would have looked like. And then ours was made into a book. So you opened it up like this. And of course, Mrs. McGee would have you do the writing inside. Now, this piece of paper is a school piece of paper. It's a big piece. And a lot of us don't have this size at home. I definitely don't. So again, what I was going to show you how to do is how to make it into a one-pager. And a one-pager, remember, is that sort of report that it's kind of neat. You can do a one-pager about anything you're learning about, and it can include diagrams and information and vocabulary words and pictures. So that's what we're going to do on here today, okay? And I know it's kind of tricky for you to see on this easel. So I am going to use the upper half so that you can see it. So the first thing that I'm starting with, of course, is our soil line or our dirt line, okay? Because all plants usually have to go in soil. Let's see, can you see this? You can see it to here. So my soil line is going to go all the way across my paper. And it's definitely not going to be straight because most dirt isn't a completely straight line. It's not cement. So go ahead and leave it like this, and you can color it and design it all later. This is for our diagram, okay? So we're doing the basic parts of a plant that all plants have in order to survive. So the very first thing that we see start to grow from a plant is the stem, okay? But this happens to be what we see first. It's actually not what's happening at all with the plant, because all plants first begin with a tiny little seed. And that tiny little seed somehow is in the dirt. Maybe it got planted, maybe it fell down there, maybe it traveled there on the whiskers or on the fur of a creature. Seeds blow in the wind. There's lots of different ways it could have ended up in its home. And when that seed gets a perfect, proper home, that means it gets covered up by the dirt and it gets some water and it gets all those vitamins from the dirt. Something really special starts to happen. The outside hard seed coat, kind of like when we wear a jacket, it protects us. That seed coat starts to break apart. And inside that seed, there was some baby food for that plant. And little by little, it starts to sprout out of that seed. Okay? But then, what keeps this plant alive is even though something tiny starts to sprout out, the roots of the plant start to grow first. Okay? So even though, and now you want your roots to connect to your stem, and the roots are sort of doing all that undercover work underground. So important. They're actually our very first part that we're going to label. So what I want you to do is you can take a Sharpie or a marker or a pencil, whatever it is, and I want you to draw a line from your roots, a little arrow, and we're going to write roots. Now, roots do actually two things for the plant. The first thing that the roots do for the plant to keep it alive is they grab on to the soil. Look, you can almost see it. It's like a bunch of little fingers coming down out of the plant, and it grabs onto the earth. And that's really important because that makes the plant stay there. So we say that that's an anchor. An anchor is something that you throw off of a ship, goes down to the bottom of the ocean, but it keeps the ship from moving around. These anchor the plant. They keep the plant from moving around, okay? So we're gonna put dot, dot, and we're going to put anchor, it looks like anchor, the plant. Okay, let me tip this down so you can pause it. Anchor the plant. Now the other thing that these roots do is they're like little tiny straws. And the whole time they're down here, they are slurping up all the water, all the minerals, all the nutrients that are in this soil. So I remember being a little girl, and I remember going out into the backyard, and my mom had given me a watering can. And she said, Emily, go out and water the plants. Well, I went out and I saw the flowers, and I watered the flower because I thought, well, this is the pretty part. So I'm just going to give each little flower some water. And she said, what are you doing? And I don't know how old I was, but I remember her saying, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm watering the flower. And she said, well, that's not going to do any good. It won't get anything. You need to water the roots. But the roots are invisible. You can't see them when they're down under the dirt. So I did not understand that. So that's why if you go outside to water a plant, you've got to water at the base of the plant. Base means bottom, so that it goes into the roots. So we also want to say, and I'll flip the phone down in a minute, drink the water and vitamins. Okay, so there you go. I'll hold it up close for you. Go ahead and pause it and get that written down. Okay, so then welcome back. Let me set this back up here. Hopefully this works. There we go. Okay, so now we're moving up. So our little seedling would start to grow a stem. And that stem is really important. The stem on some flowers will grow super tall. On a tree, it would be the trunk. On some flowers, it doesn't grow that far at all, but it's usually thicker than the leaves. So the stem, what it does is it moves the water and vitamins up. Oop, and we need to label it stem. Okay. And we'll put a comma here. It holds the plant up. So if our roots down here at the bottom are our straws, it's kind of what they are, right? In real life, we could compare them to straws. Our stem is sort of like an elevator. It's moving everything up the plant. So our roots are taking it all in, and the stem is saying, okay, thank you. I'm going to get this where it needs to go. Okay, so where it needs to go are oftentimes the leaves which start to grow. Okay, so you can draw a couple different leaves. If you have a different way of drawing leaves, go for it. I'm just drawing this way. And of course, I would color this in, but I wanted you guys to be able to see it. So the leaves start spreading out all over the plant. And we learned that leaves can take on all different shapes and sizes. Their main job, though, is to catch the sunlight. So you can see these leaves on my plant, they're reaching out really big. And that's because their job is to catch the sunlight. These roots down here can't catch the sunlight. These leaves sort of act like solar panels. And they're basically looking up to the sky and saying, give us all the light that you have. So let's draw our arrow and write leaves over here. Okay, and they collect sunlight. And make food. They make food. That seems kind of tricky. Well, I want you to think about something. I'm sure you've been to Safeway or Lucky's or Trader Joe's or Costco. Have you ever been in line with a plant? Oh, no, that's because plants can't go to Safeway. Plants can't go to Trader Joe's. So plants, Mother Nature has given them something amazing. The reason that plants are green isn't because green is their favorite color. The reason that plants are green is because the green is a chemical, and it's a chemical that obviously we don't have in our bodies because we're not green, but it's called chlorophyll. And what that green chemical is when it mixes with the sunlight from the leaves, and it mixes with the water and vitamins that have gone into the roots, it starts working like its own natural oven. And it starts making food for the plant. And that is so lucky because we're going to get into what plants do for us in a minute. So we don't have the ability to make our own food, which is why when you get up in the morning and you're hungry, you need somebody to help you make your breakfast, help us make our lunch, help us make our dinner. Plants don't have that. So there isn't a mom plant or a dad plant or a babysitter plant that comes by and makes it its food every morning. It has to do it itself. And it does that through that green chemical, okay? So the last part of our flower that we're going to do is the actual flower with the petals. And this was always one of my favorite things to do in the classroom because I always do the same exact type of flower, but first graders always have way better imaginations and way better art skills, and the flowers that you guys can come up with are amazing. So you can actually pick any type of flower that you want, but we do need to show a couple of different parts of our flower. So the part that I'm going to start with is the middle of my flower, And I'm going to do an orange circle with some orange dots, and then I'm just going to color it in yellow. Okay. And then I'm just going to do some basic flower petals at the top. If we were making this out of paper, we would cut these out of all different colors, paint the paper, and you could do that at home if you have all those things. I just don't. Okay. So there we go. There's our flower and its petals. Now, this flower we know is gorgeous, right? But it actually has a job and a purpose. Just like our roots have a job, and our stem has a job, and our leaves have a job, the flower actually has a job. It's not there just to look pretty, even though it definitely makes our earth pretty. So I want you to think back to the Cactus Hotel. Remember that once a year, when that red fruit would grow and those white flowers would grow, that's a huge deal for that cactus. That's because in the center of your flower is your pollen. And pollen is something that we need in order to make new plants. So all those bees and those birds and those insects that come and land on this flower, they get that pollen all over them because the pollen's really sticky. And then they travel off to another flower and they leave the pollen on another flower. Well, when those pollens mix together, that's how you can make new flower seeds. So it's really important. So there's a couple of different things that we want to write on this. We're going to write flower. So give it an arrow. And the flower grows fruit and new seeds. Now, not all flowers are going to grow fruit, of course. But if you have a garden, or if you've ever seen a garden, oftentimes before a pumpkin grows, the flower will grow. We have some strawberry plants in our backyard, and there's no strawberries on them right now, but there's flowers all over them. And that's the flowers starting to grow the fruit and those new seeds. So it's so important for plants to keep reproducing and having their babies. They need to grow that fruit and those new seeds. On the other side, we're going to label the petals. And the reason for this is those petals are usually always gorgeous colors. Have you ever noticed that? They're usually bright, and that's because they attract insects. So that's why sometimes on a hot summer day, if you've ever been wearing a really bright shirt and a bee flies up to you and likes your shirt, you'll hear people say, oh, it likes your shirt, it thinks you're a flower. That's because Mother Nature gave these flowers these bright colors on purpose so that insects will see them and want to go and land on them, want to go and sit there and drink the nectar and eat the pollen. So Mother Nature had a plan for all of these things. It's not an accident that the petals are bright colors. It's not an accident that the leaves reach out. This is all plants doing their job. Now, thank goodness they do their job, because plants need something else to live. They need, let's see, I think I'm going to use purple. Is there a purple in here? Yeah. The air that they take in from the outside is called carbon dioxide. Okay, now where on earth does carbon dioxide come from? How are they getting all this carbon dioxide? Guess what? Breathe out. You just breathed out carbon dioxide. When we breathe out, that's our body breathing out yucky air that we don't want in our bodies. So when we breathe out, we are breathing out carbon dioxide. We just can't see it. Plants love that. That's what they need. Now they take it in. They make their food. They're busy making fruit. They're busy making new seeds. They're busy drinking water and minerals. They're busy using that chlorophyll to get their ovens going. Also, they can release to us something so important. They get rid of oxygen. And we breathe in oxygen. So the dirty air that we breathe out, plants love. And then the air that they breathe out is what humans love. And so this is why plants are so important for us. And all plants do this exact same thing, but they look a little different. So the plants that are in the desert have adaptations to do this for their habitat. And the plants that are in the ocean, they even do this exact same thing, but their adaptations help them live in water and do this for all of our plants and animals in the ocean. So no matter where you are on Earth, there are plants that are helping keep us alive and all the different animals in the world alive. So that's why they're so important. So this is called a one-pager because what you can do with it is you can use it to display because it's gorgeous, or you can use it to actually teach about something, or you can use it to remember what we've just learned. There's diagram. A diagram means a picture that has labels. And then it also is sort of a working one-pager in that you could teach your younger brother or sister now about why we need plants, why they're so important, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this. Now, it's also Mother's Day this weekend, and I just showed you how to draw a beautiful flower. You might want to think about drawing one for Mom, maybe Grandma, okay? So I miss you guys and I love you, and I so wish we were doing this together in the classroom. But remember, if you want to do it on your own this way, it's a very fun science project. Okay, I love you, my little scientists. There's no place like home.